Welcome to our latest video. This video is about a USA Standard 05 jazz bass which I purchased recently. We're going to have a good look at it and see what needs repairing. So first we evaluate the instrument. You play the instrument if it is playable, check the action, check the intonation, and check the electronics. Make sure all the pots are working, make sure the jack is not crackly, so on. So to start off with, after doing that, we remove the covers. Covers are usually placed for aesthetic reasons, sort of vintage look. These were added by the previous owner. I believe the bridge cover is not quite straight, to be honest, so I'm probably going to leave them off after the repair. Be careful when using power tools. Make sure you either place a cloth next to the screwdriver, or as I'm doing in the video, place your finger to steady the point so you don't scratch the instrument. So we'll have a good look at it and we'll start taking the strings off. Unwind the strings. On the bass, it's normally okay to do it manually, don't need power tools for that. I normally play the string as I unwind it to make sure we're going down and up. Once that's done, then we'll proceed to cut the strings near the bridge so it's easier to thread them through. Obviously if you want to keep them, don't do this. In this case the strings are pretty awful and old, rusty, so they're coming off. Always make sure you dispose of all strings correctly. Wrap them up in perhaps the packaging from the new strings. See, and then we remove the ends from the bridge. Make sure those are disposed of as well. So those are out now. Have a good look at the saddles as well. So next we're going to remove the bridge saddles. I've placed a bit of tape, as you can see, on the sides of the bridge, just to mark a rough spot for the intonation position for the bridge saddles. We will be setting it correctly obviously, but it's just a starting point. I'm holding my finger against a screwdriver a bit to make sure the instrument does not get damaged by a slipping screwdriver. And as you remove them, what I normally tend to do is screw the spring back on, so like that you can't lose them. I always place them in the same order as I've taken them off as well. Some of these have different offsets, so they won't all fit in the same position. We're checking the little grub screws under the saddles. We're going to generally clean the body of the bass now using proper guitar polish, Dunlop, D'Addario, all the standard brands make guitar polish. I'm using a standard microfiber cloth that you can buy anywhere practically. This is very dirty, so I'd rather use one of these. I'm going to oil the fretboard with Dunlop 65. The applicator is actually broken on this bottle, so I've probably used a bit more than I should have. Give that a good clean. We'll remove the pickups next. Give them a good clean as well. As you can see, the previous owner has shielded the inside of the bass, or had it shielded. So we're going to make sure the cables are okay. We're going to clean the covers. I mean, you don't really need to do this if you don't want to, but I'm a firm believer that things need to be cleaned inside and out. The foam under the pickups was very tired and barely holding the pickup onto the correct height. So we have replaced those. We've measured the factory settings from another jazz bass and adjusted to that height. As you can see, the rear pickup has slotted screws. Be careful when using slotted screwdrivers on a guitar body. These can be very pointy and can damage the instrument. We are replacing the rear foam pads as well. This needs to be higher, this pickup, so I'm using a layer of 2 foam pads. This can just be any foam you might find in a package that you've received, or you could purchase some foam from a retailer. So there we are, replacing the pickup. Now we're reinstalling the pick guard, again using my trusty electric screwdriver. I usually place the screws first, give them a couple of turns, and that sets them up to be easily screwed in by the electronic screwdriver. Make sure you get all the screws. And next, as we mentioned before, we're going to soak the saddles in WD-40. Just to, WD-40 is like a penetration type oil. So we're going to make sure we'll leave those soak for a while. We're going to clean the pots, the volume and the tones with its WD-40 contact spray. I believe in other markets they brand this as Deoxit. In Spanish markets, Limpiador de Contactos. Clean the back of the body with guitar spray and a guitar polish. It's quite dirty. Clean the neck. Make sure everything's nice and shiny. Next we're working on the tuners. A little bit of oil as well. Tuners weren't too bad, so just a slight polish. So here's what we've done so far. I've just put the front cover on for now. It looks pretty good, as you can see. I'm cleaning the ferrules as well at the back of the bass. They are rusty. I could replace them, but that's a bit of work, and I want to get this bass ready for a rehearsal we have next week. I've just cleaned them quickly. Again, time constraints. I'm not going to paint anything or buy any special products or use the drop fill method, so just a quick marker, just fill in some marks. I've replaced the slotted screws with longer cross Phillips or posi drive, depends on the type. So I'm replacing those. The slotted ones weren't quite enough to grab the wood, as they say. So rather than doweling or filling in, I've just replaced them with longer ones. There I'm showing how I'm using the cloth to steady my screwdriver or my fingers. Both methods are valid. Check the heights from the template I set up earlier. And there we go, the bass is nearing completion. Tighten up the screws for the pickup. Make sure they're nice and tight and on the correct height. On these you have to make sure all the screws are equally in, otherwise it could be loose. And now we come to fit new strings. I usually prefer Ernie Ball 45 to 100. I may use Roto Sound strings as well, depending on what's in stock. So we're going to fit those. I usually prefer to thread all the strings through the bridge first. So we'll do that. For some reason I've put in the A string first. Normally it's the E, but hey, it doesn't matter as long as you get the correct ones. So we're threading the strings now. Do this carefully. Make sure the strings are seated, that they're not loose or the small part is not coming out of the back of the body. So we carry on fitting all the strings through the back of the body, and this makes it easier to then install them one by one onto the tuners. Again, threading the strings, hold the bass, being careful. So we're putting in the final string, the 45, the G string. You can see there's a couple of slight knocks on the edge of the bass, what they call relict or road worn. This bass has been used quite a bit it seems, so it's got some natural wear, which I've just slightly touched up. On the vintage style tuners, the same as on a guitar, you want to have the string roughly 2 posts past your tuner. I'm going to clip it on the D when I'm doing the E string. You push it into the slot, crimp at 90 degrees and then start winding. If it's quite long, you can just wrap it around manually. Always wind down and make sure the winds are nice and tight. You don't need to tune up at this moment, just as long as the slack is taken and the strings are fitted. See, I'm adjusting the string, make sure it's tight. We do this for all the strings. Again, measure 2 past. The thinner the string, the more you want to get on. So normally for the D and the G, I might actually leave a bit of more length than the 2 posts. Same applies when doing a guitar. I'm going to have a quick check with my headstock tuner. Just roughly tune the bass to pitch, standard pitch that is, and once that's done we'll move to playing position and tune it with a polytune tuner. So we're now making sure it's tuned up. I won't go over this on the video. I've checked the neck is pretty straight, the action's dead on. I've also checked the intonation of camera. Again, there's many places you can check on how to do that. Perhaps we'll do a video further on how to set up your guitar or your bass, and we're basically making sure the bass is tuned. So once I had tuned it and checked it with my amplifier, I noticed the jack was crackly and also that the screening was shorting out against the positive on the jack. I don't actually like the screening too much that they've added. This is stick-on, so I decided to remove it, to be honest. especially on the metal plate. I mean, it's a metal plate, there's no need to screen it. So I've replaced the jack. I've just put the old one aside, as you can see. I'm using a 40 watt iron, which is sufficient for this. I just finger tight the screw, tighten it up. I remember my first boss used to say, you use a proper spanner first, like a closed spanner, an adjustable spanner second, and pliers never. So make sure you use the right tools. So here we're just transposing the cables. The inner ring is the earth, so you want the black wire, the earth wire there, and the outer ring, you can see the lug, it's not showing any metal next to it, that's the hot. So in our case the white wire goes there. Remember that soldering is a mechanical connection, so I just wrap the wires slightly and place them in the little holes, and then a quick dab of solder and you're done. Make sure you apply the soldering iron for the least time possible on the parts. Just the exact heat needed, nothing less, nothing more. The electronics on this base have been swapped. I believe this base might originally have had the S1 or a different configuration. It actually came to me from the gentleman from which I purchased it about 4 years ago, just before COVID or after COVID perhaps. And I changed the wiring and the pots for him. So I had seen the base before and I knew where it came from, and I had worked on it, so there's no need to change the electronics. It's all been done. I had to clean them earlier. I'm placing a cloth there to protect the finish of the bass. If you have a more expensive instrument or a pristine instrument, use more cloth, cover it up, perhaps a piece of cardboard. And I've soldered on the wire to the lug on the body with the screws in, and I've also added the earth to the pot just for extra earthing. And as I mentioned off camera, I removed all the shielding which is not to my taste. So while we're finished soldering up, I'd like to mention I took the bass to my band rehearsal and I handed it over to my bass player, and he was pretty pleased with it. Nice action, good sound. Perhaps the pickups need to be raised slightly, which we'll check at the next rehearsal, as they were a bit soft compared to his other instruments. But overall, I think a good turnaround for this bass. It was done in a couple of hours, and we'll keep adjusting it until it's completely to my taste. As I had removed the shielding, I decided to add an earth cable to the cavity, which was missing. Should have been there, probably removed. So I've added that on. The actual part on the body was there, so it was just a question of adding a wire. I've left it quite long, so it's easy to remove the plate and work on the electronics if need be. So I hope this is all useful and help you to fix your own instruments, be they bass guitars, electric guitars, or otherwise. There we go. That's a finished product. Goodbye. And that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed this video. I do understand it's quite long. So I hope this is all useful and help you to fix your own instruments, be they bass guitars, electric guitars, or otherwise.